In the late 80s, Michigan had I-94 west of Detroit all torn up, as they were completely replacing the roadbed. I was going into Detroit at about 2 a.m., driving in the construction zone, when I saw this heavy-set elderly lady in a raincoat standing behind her car, in the construction zone, waving her arms, asking me to stop. I had almost passed the elderly lady when I saw her and couldn't stop, so I turned around at the next exit and circled back and pulled up behind the broken-down car with my four-ways on. Two heads popped up from behind the seat. A young guy came back to the truck. I told him to get everyone out of the car, and I would take them to the gas station where they can get some help. He got his wife from the car, and they got into my truck and shut the passenger door. I looked at them and said, "Is that everyone? Where's the elderly lady?" The couple looked puzzled and asked what I was talking about. So I told them the story of the elderly lady flagging me down and described her to the couple. Immediately, the woman burst into tears and said that she had heard that guardian angels look like deceased relatives. She went on to explain that her grandmother had passed away earlier that year and had just described her grandmother to a T. This story still gives me goosebumps thinking about it all these years later. I can't wait to meet that elderly lady someday. I did something right that night, for once in my life. It was about 3 a.m., and I was westbound on Jensen Road in Fresno, California, just before the residential area. I had slowed to about 40 miles an hour when out of nowhere appeared this freakishly tall figure of a man in a black buttoned-up trench coat and a round black sombrero standing on the white line of the two-lane road. He must have been at least 6'7" or 7 feet tall. My partner and I watched as he didn't even flinch as the rig passed by. I swear, the side mirrors must have missed his head by only a couple of inches. My partner and I looked at one another with our eyes wide open and screamed, "Did you see that? What the fuck was that?" Our skin crawled, and we were both in a kind of shock. I couldn't stop thinking about it for a couple of days. I was driving to work at around 3:30 in the morning on a back road in Mississippi near the Louisiana line. I was probably going about 35 or so, as it was raining and the road is a winding with no lines or anything. It's dangerous enough in the daylight under normal conditions. Anyway, I'm driving along and suddenly this jet black horse just flies out of the woods on a side trail. There was a rider decked out in a black cloak with a hood and everything. The horse must have been blasting at full speed, and the rider's cloak was just whippling in the wind. They must have ran for a fourth mile or so, and then darted off down another side trail and disappeared into the darkness. My buddy was riding with me, and I looked over at him, and he looked over at me, and we both said something along the lines of, "Did you fucking see that?" Last week, I had just left Gallup, New Mexico, and was driving west on I-40 near Holbrook, Arizona, when I heard a knock, knock, knock 2 times on the side of my sleeper. It was very loud and distinct, like 1, 2, 3, and it was repeated once more shortly after that. I had the radio off and I was alone in the rig. Honestly, I thought keep driving was the best thing to do. When I got to Holbrook, I stopped for a break, but was too freaked out to get out and go look. The next day I walked around the cab and I was looking at the catwalk. There was no way a human being could have been hiding back there at 3 a.m. in 10-degree freezing winter weather going 70 miles an hour without anyone noticing. I logged this one as unexplained. I was driving at night when I heard an odd grinding noise, like I had run over something that got stuck. It was about 2 a.m., so I pulled into a well-lit rest stop and woke up my buddy. I explained it to him, and as we got out of the car, we heard what sounded like a kid crying. There was no other cars at that rest stop, but we frequently heard stories about child trafficking and kidnapping, so we decided to check it out. We grabbed our flashlights and headed towards the noise, which was coming from the bathrooms. As we got closer, we realized it was coming from the woman's bathroom. It was a low, dull sobbing. We prepared for the worst and walked in, expecting to see a brutally beaten or even raped 8-year-old or something. But there was nobody inside. We turned on the lights and still found nothing. We checked each stall, the trash can, nothing. We even started looking for where in the room it was coming from. Nothing. We wondered, is it a hidden speaker? Are we on candid camera? What the fuck? My buddy climbed up one of the stalls to get to the top window in the rest stop, which was vented out and open. He closed it, and the noise stopped completely. He opened it, and there was no more noise. We sat there for a few seconds, staring at each other. He shrugged, then the window slammed shut again without him even touching it. We were out of that fucking bathroom in seconds. The noise started up about 10 seconds later, and we tore out of that parking lot. The grinding noise was still there, so this time I pulled over a few miles later at a Flying J truck stop, one that was well lit and occupied. We checked and saw a red and silver piece of metal wedged underneath. We couldn't remove it by hand, as it was really wedged in there, so we kicked at the metal to bend it and figured we'd remove it when we got back. A week later, I had my mechanic take it out when he was doing a service. It was part of a kid's tricycle, the red area where somebody can stand. That was one of those moments for me. Totally fucked up and crazy. I hope you all enjoyed the 5 trucker stories. I thought it would be interesting to do. My uncle is actually a truck driver, and he has been for most of his life, so I figured, why not see if truckers have ghost stories? And apparently they do. Interesting, right? So, don't forget, my last video will be on the top left. My new video, or the next video, will be bottom left. And don't forget to add me on Facebook, Ghoulish Gal. It should pop up. If not, there's going to be a link on the end slate that you can click and go to it. And remember, there's always someone or something watching you.